Alright, I'm going to talk a little bit about tithing. Our favorite subject. But I'm serious about it though. Because I want to help you guys, at least with your understanding of tithing. I'm not your pastor. I don't have a GoFundMe account, none of that stuff. So I can give it to you straight, I can give it to you raw. You don't pay my bills, so I can give it to you straight. Two things, good and bad. I'll start with the bad. Number one, I don't like any sort of pastor who on one hand says we're no longer under the law. Okay? We're no longer under the law. Can't be saved by the law, etc., etc. But then in the next breath they say we have to tithe. We have to tithe because it's a command of God. Well, hang on, pick one. Don't say that we're not under the law and then you give me an element of the law saying that I have to do this. For the average Joe in church, that may slide, but for people like me, hang on, you're going to have a problem with that. Because after we're done talking about the tithe, you got another 612 laws to go through. And I want to see you as well observing the dietary, the ceremony, the oblations, etc., etc. So, and I don't think a lot of good preachers do that. They say it's important and stuff like that, but they don't say that it's because of the law. I think, and I could be wrong, I don't know, but I think not a lot, but the pastors who do that, they're either novices, they don't know the law. A lot of pastors do not know the law. Believe me, a lot of them do not. They're Gentiles. How can you expect them to know the Jewishness of scriptures? They don't know the law. They don't know how to keep it. Or they're just wicked pastors. Wicked men claiming to be pastors. Because you can't say that you're not under the law, but then tell people you have to tithe because the law said so. Pick one and stick with it. And if you pick the law, it better be all 613 of them. Not just the 10 commandments. It better be all 613. So that's the bad side. The good side is this. And I wish that the sensible and the mature pastors would pitch it. Just be honest. Just be truthful. The law, and I'm not saying they're not truthful and honest, but just be wise about it and just pitch the whole reason about tithes. This is why we tithe. For example, let me try to explain it to you all about tithing. The Levitical priesthood, the tribe of Levi overall, they did not have an inheritance. Okay, they didn't have an inheritance. They lived off the tithes and the offering. Yeah, so when you brought your animals, your pigeons, your lambs, your goats, your bulls, and you sacrificed them, the tribe of Levi would actually eat those animals. That's how they survived. The spices and the meats. They would eat that stuff. Because they didn't have an inheritance as the other tribes did. So, and it's not just the priesthood, it's all the tribe of Levi. So consider that with your church. I mean, your pastor needs to live. He has bills. What about the administrative staff? The secretaries, the lawyers, the office managers. That's their job. That's how they live. They get paid based on your tithes and your offerings. The same way the Levites lived. You enjoy air conditioning, don't you? Maybe you go to one of those older churches where you're using the hand fan and stuff. But you're using their electricity. You're enjoying their electricity. You're enjoying their air conditioning. You go to the bathroom, you're using their water. And if you go to a relatively big, somewhat big church, even up to a mega church, who's paying the parking attendants? What about the people watching your children? Well, you're in the main sanctuary, and they're over in children's church. They got to be paid. So, and what about the music ministries? Some churches have like 3, 4 services. People there from like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. One service, next service, next service. What about them? What about the sheriff out in the street? Some of you go to medium to large size churches. You know what I'm talking about. If you didn't have that sheriff out in the street, getting in and out of service will be a major headache. It'll be like being stuck in rush hour traffic. They gotta get paid. So what's my point? I'm not a big tither. I've never been a big tither. I give to good causes. When I say I'm not a big tither, I don't tithe every single service that I go to. My parents are. They're really big. They're faithful when it comes to tithing. But I'll tell you the same thing my father told me when I was pretty young, probably in my late 20s. He said he doesn't have to tithe. My father's a pastor. He's got it right. You don't have to tithe. But that's what makes it all the more sweet for me, because I'm doing something because I want to do it. Because I have the liberty not to do it, but I still do it. As opposed to someone who's only doing it because the law tells them to do it. Who is God going to honor at the end of all of this? The person who does it because they're told to do it? Or the person who does it and doesn't have to do it, but does it because they want to do it and they want to help? Bottom line is, your tithes and your offering, they help the staff, they help the pastoral council, they help all the ministries, they help feeding the poor when the church does deviate things out to the neighborhoods and stuff like that. Just think of it that way. Think of it that way. There's people's jobs. What about the what's it called, the sound crew and the whatever a church may call it, the technological crew, the people who do all the graphics and the mics checks and the speakers and stuff like that. They have to get paid too. So just think of it as it was even with the Levitical priesthood. They lived off the tithes and the offering. If you're going to a church, you're enjoying their air conditioning, you're enjoying their food, you're enjoying the sheriff keeping the traffic flow pretty smooth, the parking attendants, the people taking care of your kids and other people's kids. Church will be disruptive if you have a whole bunch of children making up all the noise and crying and stuff like that. So pay your tithes and your offerings as a way to support your church. Look at it that way. Don't look at it in any other way. Don't look at it as any other thing. Just look at it as a way you're supporting your church. It's not just your pastor's salary, it's everybody's. So, I'm not a pastor. That's not something I think I'm called to, because I come into things eyes wide. Being a pastor is not as glamorous as some people think it is. I think people go into pastorship because for all the wrong reasons, particularly in the West. They don't know about the 3 o'clock calls in the morning and somebody spitting on your car because you shouldn't be driving there's 2000 model Mercedes Benz. You're supposed to be driving the old beat up hoopty because you're a pastor. They don't know about all of that stuff. The threats, the letters, the hate mail. If you're not getting that, then maybe you're not really offending people as the gospel typically does offend people. But anyway, this is not about true and false pastors. It's about tithing. I just wanted to say this to give you guys, really just to encourage you. Forget the nonsense. Again, I'm not a big tither, but I get it. I understand. It's meant to help the ministry. The same way the tithes were meant to help the Levitical priesthood and the entire tribe of Levi. Your tithes and your offering are keeping the church functional. Just look at it that way. Cast off all the delusions and the crap that you've heard. If you go to a good church, then this is exactly what's going on. If you go to a bad church, then the question is, why are you going to a bad church? So, your tithes are meant to keep the church functional.